Well, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be here once again in a very purposeful and intentional conversation for everyone today. As you know, these Blue Star Careers webinars every Wednesday at the same time have become a tradition to introduce you to the latest resources, employer partnerships, great intentional career pathways, but also just to build community, to let you know we're here, you, and you're not alone. So we're so excited that you have joined us. So please make sure that you pay it forward. If you're a military spouse, veteran, transitioning service member, caregiver, everyone is welcome. We are very, very excited to share with you great resources and connections. This week, we want to expand the discussion on career readiness beyond opportunities, beyond resumes, beyond the interview, because we have to talk about first behind the scenes on how you are finding your connections, your confidence, your well-being, having a very supportive community, but also being adaptable to learn how to navigate your change. Today, we're honored to welcome Crystal, founder and executive director of Strength in Services, which is a great fabulous social nonprofit organization that works to address social isolation, loneliness within the military connected community, helping all military families navigate and build stronger connections, resilience, building a greater sense of belonging. But also, this organization supports the professional development of military connected social workers and clinicians who understand this very unique realities of military life. And she's here to tell us all about how she has built this fabulous community that is one pathway to get social services, but those who are looking to pivot or launch their career in social services, she knows and has the perfect formula. So let's begin. Crystal, are you ready?
I'm ready, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Let's begin. So great to have you once again here with me, Crystal. And I say once again because you and I have done a little bit of the live segment, talking, conversations, getting ready for this great discussion. But first, I would like to officially, obviously, welcome you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. We can begin by asking you a little bit more about yourself, your experience as a military spouse, but also we want to dive in a little bit more intentionally later on as your work as a licensed clinician social worker, and and how you became to create this incredible project that now is an actual organization that is causing so much great benefit, but also creating exciting opportunities for others. So, Crystal, please make an informal introduction to those who are looking and expecting to get to know you further.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me today. It is such an honor to be here and to be supporting Blue Star Careers. And I'm just so excited that we are able to link up through MSAP and through all these amazing partnerships that are out there for military spouses to really be able to connect and grow through collaboration. My name is Crystal. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I am also a military spouse. I've been a military spouse for over 20 years. We are still active duty. My husband's at 32 years in June. And we have three amazing daughters that span 21, 13, and 10 years of age. And they're not going to be disrupting me today because they're all at summer camp. So I'm feeling a little social disconnected from my family as all my girls are all over the place. So I'm happy that I can be here for you and for Blue Star Family Careers and be here to support other military spouses that are looking for social work opportunities, but also might be identifying with a little bit of social disconnection and want to know more about this buzzword of social health.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And then those of you who are watching, I see that we have a great crowd already tuning in on Facebook. Please tell us where you're watching from. Post your comments, your questions. This is live. We are actually live streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and our digital community. And we really want to know more about your questions, your aspirations. Maybe you thought about licensed clinical social work, but also maybe you thought about also services that, if you could benefit. So it's all in one. We're really excited. But Crystal, before we start monitoring some of those comments, which will be coming in just a second, I want to know more about your path, your trajectory. Why licensed clinical social work? Why was this fit such a good fit for you that really triggered and you said, I really want to do this? Because it's a hard path to really commit to it. So tell us more about your aspirations to lead this.
Yes, absolutely, Laura. Thank you for validating some of the challenges within that. So I was actually working for an insurance organization when I met my husband, and before I knew it, we were on our way to San Diego, and I was very much trying to piece together a career, and I kind of fell in love with the field of gerontology, which is the study of aging and older adults and really the lifespan of human beings. And through our multiple moves, we moved from San Diego to Japan, and I was able to find an online course that was able to give me my master's my undergrad in gerontology. And through that, again, just kind of fell in love with older adults, end of life care. I had a long history as a high schooler, and I know it shouldn't be a long history because we're only high schoolers for so long, but thinking about how important my grandparents were in my upbringing. And before I met my husband, I had only moved twice, and that was after leaving home for college. And but my grandparents were such a pivotal such pivotal role models and such pivotal people in my life. And I really just loved working in assisted living facilities and nursing facilities and wanted to do more on an administrative and leadership level. And fell in love again with the field of gerontology, ended up getting my master's in gerontology, using my, this was 2008, 2009, 2010, using my CAA benefit to pay for my first course. And through that pathway, I had a couple of mentors along the way that were like, well, have you looked at social work? And I was so stubborn. And I was like, no, I just really want my gerontology. That's what I want my focus to be in. And I went to an amazing hospice facility in Los Angeles while my husband was just deployed in Afghanistan, and just was so amazed with this hospice organization. And I asked, what can I do with a master's in gerontology? And they kind of said, volunteer coordinator, administrative. I'm like, no, I want to be bedside. Like, I want to be helping these families navigate grief. And they were like, oh, you'd need to have a master's in social work. You'd need to have your licensure. And so I walked across campus and applied to the School of Social Work at the University of Southern California, and started that path. And it wasn't anticipated, and it was not part of the journey, but it was exactly what I needed. But the bigger thing was I never knew what social work was because no one ever really talked about it. So along the way, again, as soon as we get settled and we think we have things all under under control and we have a pathway,
Right.
we usually get orders, right?
Right.
So I had a great intern field practicum at another hospice organization in San Diego. We had our third child, and we get orders to the Middle East, to Bahrain, and I'm at another crossroad. And at that point, we had done 4 unaccompanied tours in 5 years, so we were already like, we're really tired of being apart. So I said, okay, we're going to Bahrain. We moved to Bahrain, and I really tried to find licensing hours. And at the time, it was really hard. The American Red Cross, Fleet and Family Support, the infrastructure wasn't there. And and I think everyone was trying to be supportive, but I ended up finding an organization called Women's Crisis Care International, and I was able to figure out how to navigate licensing hours and clinical supervision by volunteering for this nonprofit that was registered in a nonprofit in the United States, which was an amazing opportunity, and had a clinical supervisor that I was Skyping with, and Skype doesn't even exist anymore, but was able to start piecing together some clinical hours, but also learned how we really need to work with the systems we have to try to figure out where those loopholes are for us to navigate. And I wasn't getting paid, but I was getting clinical supervision hours, and that was more important than that pay. Jump forward to, we moved to Hawaii. I'm getting clinical hours, working towards, again, another licensure that I needed for that state, and was able to finally get my licensed clinical social work like my license, passed the exam in May. Actually, it was August of 2020, after navigating some solo parenting, and my spouse is on the other side of the coast, and in the US, and we're in Hawaii during the pandemic. And from there, I call it the golden ticket. It was easier from there to navigate into California, get my license in California, and now Hawaii and Virginia. But yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. And at one point in time, I actually was working 40 hours a week and watching 30 hours a week expire, because they were just kind of dropping off. And I just remember, like, every day was running to get more, to just keep on track. And when the pandemic hit, I just was like, I have to finish these hours. And thankfully, I had some great mentors and great partnerships, really, to help me get to that finish line.
Wow. I was visualizing as you are describing your trajectory, going from one location all the way to the Middle East, coming back to the US, going to Hawaii, and then just visualizing that incredible connectivity, but yet your determination was just there. Your motivation to really stay on this path. I mean, you had already invested a whole degree, and then and so blessing that you became aware of this organization that potentially had a good print for you to take off and or borrow or mirror from, so that you could really definitely become and do your own path that is structured for your opportunity. So thank you so much for sharing. That was such a great motivation. And what a wealth of humble service of yours to be working with adults, our generations, that quite often sometimes it's really hard to find the community as you're aging, and to have great individuals like yourself who thought about embracing and really going into this pathway. And now you get to mix it all for everybody. I mean, all ages, no age. It's definitely not necessarily part of your goal and purposeful supportive as well. So we're going to just talk a little bit more organically. And I want to encourage all of you who are watching, if you have thought about social work licensing, you're struggling with how do I complete my hours, all the great stuff, this is really intended for you. And then we have, of course, some job opportunities, but also we're going to discuss a little bit more further about why taking care of yourself before you go on to take care of others, or even your job searching career, is very important. But first, Krista's going to walk us a little bit more, and we're going to interfere a little bit more and facilitate with some very general questions. But Krista, tell us a little bit more on strength and services, because this is really your baby. This is you in so many years of creation. So tell us a little bit more about what what can we expect when you connect with strength and service.
Absolutely. So Strength and Service, we actually filed for our articles of incorporation this month in 2024. So we're officially 2 years old, which is great. Moving into our third year, we're just so excited. We really focused Strength and Service on the things that I didn't have throughout my career. So, everything is really under the umbrella of social health and looking at the grand challenges of social work and seeing that social isolation and loneliness are a wicked issue in America, in the world, really, in society in general. And we wanted to make sure that that was ingrained in everything that we were doing. So what we really have, kind of a dual mission. Direct mental health therapy is one of our missions. So we're providing that direct mental health therapy to civilians, military spouses, families, anyone that really comes to us. And we accept insurance, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, and we utilize that service and that sliding fee to provide that direct mental health support. I actually had a private practice that I was just opening as a group practice when the idea and the need came that we needed to have our structure under a nonprofit umbrella. And why we needed that nonprofit is because we have military spouses that end up with licensing restrictions if they leave the state. And the state of California in particular sees it as almost like a licensing abandonment when they don't renew their license. But why would you renew a license if you move and you don't know where you're moving, right? It's one of those situations where I think it's not just military spouses, but California social workers fell into this, I don't know what I don't know. So if they move and they leave and then come back into the state, they get put on a restricted ID and they can only earn direct practice clinical hours at a nonprofit. So when I was supervising another military spouse in clinical supervision, I was like, wait a minute, you couldn't work under our direct practice, you'd have to work under a nonprofit, and I don't have that. So I jokingly said, well, let's just start one. And here we are 2 years later. So one of our mission is providing that direct service. The other part is really providing those career opportunities for military spouses. And, we do that within accepting internships, volunteers, doing clinical supervision for military spouses, and then offering job opportunities for them. And, the mentorship is really where it's at. We see so many times military spouses coming in to different social media accounts looking for support on, what I want to go back to school. What should I do? Or I need to get licensed in this state. Where should I go? And what ends up happening sometimes, not all the time, because we know there's great information in those groups, but we become really dependent on those groups. And we want to be able to kind of funnel those questions into us and have us forming those communication lifelines, really, but also being able to forge more mentorships, whether it's informal or formal, and say, hey, I've got you. Let's not do this alone. Don't make the mistake I made.
Right. And this is such incredible. You just described, obviously, building a whole community and being part of a allyship and a group, accountability partners that really keep you in a very intentional purpose and pathway so that you don't have to be doing it alone. And then, as you also, contributed, don't do what I did, right? Save yourself all these extra headaches. So, what an incredible investment and testament of your fantastic leadership, but also commitment to really lead with intent. Now, for someone who may be interested in social work, I know, as you mentioned, we see this all the time in our groups, but the inability to maybe project or see with all the moves how my career path may actually pan out or end up, how am I going to end up creating all those social workers for somebody who's today interested or thought about it? And I know someone I'm ready for sure. I'm going to send a shout out to Claire, or counseling, mental health. What should those first steps that they should consider before they even begin any pathway at all? What would be those steps that you will take back when you first started your path as a social clinician worker?
Yeah, so I think shout out to one of my undergrad professors who was like, have you looked at social work? And I was like, no, 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 no. Because he would have saved me a lot of money and a lot of heartache had I just listened, or I would have if I had just listened to him. I think the main thing to look at is to look at all different. There's different types of mental health support services, and then there's different types of career paths, and then there's different education. The main thing I want all military spouses to be really aware of is accreditation. And when you're going to go back to school or you're going to start your career path and look at education, make sure you're looking at accreditation, because if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to move into your master's degree. It's going to be really hard to move into that licensure, and every state's going to be asking for that. I often get the question, why social work when we have marriage and family therapy? We have licensed professional counselors. And really, for me, it was the fact that we were looking at so many different levels. So we're looking at the macro level, the meso level, and the micro level. And social work encompasses advocacy, it encompasses policy, and then it comes all the way down to that individual person on that clinical level, but also the systems that impact them. When we look at military families, we're looking at all those systems that impact military spouses, military families, from the little micro community that they might be living in a compound in the Middle East, to where their families are, how far away their families are. And we bring all that in to really see that person in the environment. And when we look at all the mental health providers in the country, social workers are devoting 80% of the 80% of the mental health therapy in our country is approximately delivered by military. Excuse me, I'm all over with my stats. I'm getting tongue-tied. Excuse me. Is delivered by social workers. So social workers are the majority of the mental health providers in the country. And, I think we look at that as the strong accreditation, the strong history of social work, where social work started and what it provides. And looking at it from, really all communities. We're really focused on those marginalized communities. We're really focused on the injustices. We have social work ethics that we are rooted in. And, I think even just having that background of, how can I navigate this complex situation? I always go back to my code of ethics. And then I know that there's a big, strong professional organization that's also going to support me in being able to allow me to consult with my code of ethics and help guide me in this. So this isn't just you and a client in a room. This is, a long history of support of how we navigate these challenges. And that's why I love social work. And that's why I'd suggest starting with social work. So always do your homework, but, look at the schools. You can do a Google search, you can ask AI, you can do all those things. Ultimately, we'd love for you to just, reach out to us and say, hey, where should I go? There's so many different schools and so many different programs, but the best way to start is looking at those accredited ones. And that's going to come from looking at, the Council for Social Work Education, CSWE, looking at their recommendations for schools, and then looking at what you can afford and what you can't. We're at a really pivotal time in looking at student loans. So, compare programs. The most expensive program isn't always the best program. There's great programs that are very affordable.
I was so inspired when you mentioned that you use my CAA to pay for the initial transition into this education. So tell us a little bit about that process. How did that work out for you, and maybe others who may still qualify for that? Why should they not take
Absolutely.
advantage? So please.
Absolutely. So we're so honored to be part of the Military Spouse Employment Partnership. And, we've just rebranded to Spouse Works, and there's all these opportunities. Definitely
Absolutely.
go on those websites and create an account. I'm going to say that I'm guilty for getting hung up with some of those accounts that you have to create, right? But take some time. I had to sit down with my spouse and ask him, like, what email are we registered with Dear is in, and how do I get in? But I created it, and then it's a whole opportunity for you to see, to sit down with a mentor, to get some career coaching. And I think at the time, I mean, this was a long time ago. I'm not going to quote what it is, but there's money available for you
Right.
to be able to utilize, to go back to school and to start this process. So, utilize all of those resources.
Yeah. And I'm not going to put you on the spot about a favorite state, but is there a state that is a little more friendlier in the process with navigating clinical credentialing, all this great opportunities that once you see the pathway almost towards the end? What's your favorite?
So I will say, and I know California gets a bad rap. Everyone's like, it's impossible. But I will actually say that California is my favorite because of how they're setting social workers up to make sure that they have the knowledge base to go out into the public and help serve the public during most vulnerable times. So yes, it is. And it really is here's my first step, here's my second step. A lot of people think it's really complicated, but go to the Board of Behavioral Health website and it has the steps there. So I say California because it kind of was the one that I started with. But I really appreciated Virginia. It was overnight that I pretty much paid. They, took my license from California, looked at all my background, looked at all my CEUs, and were able to give me my license. And I don't know if I have a favorite, Laura. That's a tough question.
I know, sorry. We gotta have a favorite state. Obviously, of course, Hawaii. I would just probably study in and getting your credentialings right there on by the beach on your laptop, and that I could see myself doing that in social work. But okay, so let's talk about how you created some of these incredible opportunities for those who are right now in that pivotal moment where they need their hours, they need their support, the mentorship, the confidence to really know that, hey, you can move forward and actually finish it. You already invested so much. What's there available through Strength in Services, and what can they do with you directly?
Yeah, so we'll jump forward. I'm going to just jump
Yeah.
forward a couple slides, and then we might jump a little bit back and forth. But like I said, we're really here building. Can you see that on?
Yes.
Oh, did I move the slide?
Not yet. Not
Oh,
yet.
okay. Whoops. I'm so sorry. Um, Here we
It's
go.
okay. Well,
There we go. There we
there we
go.
go. It's moving now. In the meantime, those of you who are watching, please post your questions, share your comments. Thank you, Kira, from watching all the way in Oklahoma. Thank you so much. Thank you, Denise, from Georgia. Sending you shout outs all the way out there. And then please pay it forward for those of within your network who need to hear this, and they know that they're not alone. We're here in a community ready to help them and support them in the social work endeavors, in the licensing, and just building community. So go ahead, Crystal, tell us more.
Yes. So, like I said before, we're really here building that social health and delivering the mental health therapy and then advancing those military spouse careers. And how we do that is, first we had to really understand what the scope of the problem was. So, what I'm doing within my doctoral work is really working with human centered design, which is why I want the questions. So, please share the questions, reach out to us, but ask now, for us to really understand what the scope of the problem was and how we are delivering that support is by looking at kind of what those statistics are. And I'm always excited to see more statistics come out. This one, some of these might be a little bit dated, maybe 2023, 2024, because I'm using peer reviewed uh, sources. And we're looking at anywhere from 24% unemployment rate for military spouses, right? We look at 25% are earning lower than their civilian counterparts, and then 10 times more likely to cross straight lines when moving versus civilian families. So again, we know that we have challenges in this. When I did our research survey just a couple months ago, we did find that 84% of the participants that took our survey were very committed to the field. And they 60% believed that licensure was worth it. But 100% of them are still reporting financial stress. And when we're looking at where are those jobs at, how do we find those flexible jobs? How do we find the jobs that are actually doing what our degrees are in? And I think knowing so much about military spouses and higher education, and how many military spouses are carrying advanced degrees, but are not working within the field in which they are trained. And that was one of my challenges, is really being able to find a social work career. And social work is very diverse, but where I could still earn those clinical hours. So that was part of our priority in creating in creating strength and service was, can we look at those macro hours by, being able to spread social health awareness, being able to share more information, whether it's, going to health fairs and delivering information, or, partnering with some different local organizations. We have an office physically in Coronado, California. And one of the partnerships that we've been able to forge is with a local organization called CAIDS Day. So one of our really big new initiatives is ensuring that our clinicians are trained under the CAMS model for suicide prevention. And then we have some more partnerships coming with organizations like Workshop for Warriors to be able to provide that suicide prevention. Well, so we're giving those clinical hours to those military spouses, but then we're also being able to help the bigger issue of military spouse suicide, veteran suicide, and just the population in general. So we're really excited to be able to forge some of those partnerships, and we're only able to do that because we're in those communities and we understand those communities. Military spouses that are social workers have cultural competency to work with the military population, and I hear that time and time again. Individuals that said, yes, I found a great counselor, I found a great therapist, but they don't understand any of the acronyms that I'm using. Right. And when we look at using what we have and using resources wisely, if we already have a big pool of social workers that have military spouse experience or military connected experience, that's where we want them to be able to serve those military families. So that's what we're able to do. We started, just with a couple of employees, just offering those direct therapeutic hours in the state of California is primarily where we're doing that. But then looking at the bigger issue of now, a lot of social workers are finding it hard to find internships. And as organizations have budget restraints, a lot of social workers will work with county governments or nonprofit organizations. But as they're having some budget restraints, it's hard to onboard them and then provide the staff to be able to facilitate that supervision. So we're able to bring on interns and help them. And what's been great about it is we're co-designing everything. So using that human-centered design, we're able to say, okay, I graduated a decade plus ago, tell me about what you're seeing and what you're not getting, and then we can implement that. And so it's ongoing. Nothing's ever going to be perfect in our world, but it's really exciting because we're able to work together to bridge that all together and provide that connection with social workers that might be online and not have any contact with their community members because they're doing an online program.
Yeah. So how do I go beyond that? If I'm a student, I'm looking forward to become an intern. I'm an early social worker. I really and just want to become more involved with the strength and services. What does that look like on your end? How do I, join your network, I guess, so to say, or be part of your community?
Yeah, so you can go onto our website, which is www.strengthandservice.org. I know you have all the links posted, Laura, and you can go to our career mentorship page and submit a form for interest. And what we're doing with that, we're trying to get back to everybody as soon as possible, but it's been very busy. What we're trying to do is host a couple of different, evenings, weekends, opportunities for you to come in and join us, meet other social workers, get to know what we offer, but also how can we help you navigate that? Some of the questions might be, this is where I'm stuck. I don't know if I want to do direct practice anymore. I want to get into legislation. And, then we are able to say, okay, here's this network and I need you to connect with this person because this social worker is the expert on getting more involved with policy.
I love it.
Really linking everyone up, but also having that place of belonging. When we're looking at some of the statistics, we're seeing so much loneliness and so much isolation. I'm going to go back to this statistic of 69.6% of active duty military spouses reported feeling lonely. And one of your questions to me was, how does that show up in that professional place? When we're lonely, there's almost a perception issue, and it can be really daunting to put yourself out there and start networking when, you're already kind of feeling detached from
Yep.
society, detached from your profession. Um, for me, so much of what I did came from being able to meet my clinical supervisor, Ann Kramer, who's an Army spouse, and we met in Hawaii. She became my clinical supervisor. And through that mentorship, but also that supervision, I realized that having my own clinical practice wasn't that hard. It was just finding the right way to start it. So, again, having those connections is so pivotal.
So with that in mind, let me ask you, right now our job searching sort of environment is it's very challenging to say the least. So you are a professional, you're getting out there, you're applying, you start experiencing now you're feeling as isolated, lonely, like this is only happening with me. I'm getting declined with all these jobs. How do I continue? What, from a social worker or a clinician standpoint, what would you coach me or tell me as an active job seeker so that I don't lose my grit and then just keep going, stay motivated? Um, if I'm on the other side of services, not necessarily as an active pursuing clinician work, but more in the service side, that I need a little bit more boost of energy so that I can stay motivated in challenging or navigating this lifestyle.
Yes. So when we're looking at social health, and I could talk to you for hours about all of this.
We'll come back.
um,
We invite you to come back and do us a more intentional Zoom meetup for all of you who are watching. And so we'll to be
exactly.
determined. Yes.
Exactly. So I won't get into, what happens neurologically when we are with other people. I'll wait on that one. But we need to be in other spaces with other people. One, right? So, sometimes I think we need to also take away the pressure of the job, and think about what it is that makes us feel like we matter. And that's really what I found to be one of the most important things. And mattering is a get and a give. So you give something, you feel a place like you belong, but you're also giving, but you're also getting something from that. It's very equal in that. And I think, a lot of messages, and I hope everyone can understand where I'm coming from, because I think it is important that we all have opportunities for financial security and to build financial wealth. But I also think that there is nothing better than volunteering. And I think we need to really embrace volunteering as a career pathway. If I didn't volunteer, I would not be here today talking to you. So that comes down to calling women's crisis care and looking for opportunities to volunteer. My first hospice job in Hawaii, I was waiting on a licensing exam, and I had to take the prep, I had to get the space for the licensing test. I couldn't put myself out there until I had that. And I called to volunteer, and I sent in my resume, and she called me back. She's like, "We'll hire you. Why would you volunteer?" And they created an opportunity for me to do more of a liaison job per diem while I was waiting for that license that they needed. Even going back to so many of the things that I've learned how to build came back from way back in the day when I volunteered with In Gear Career, which was then Military Spouse Professional Network. I volunteered so much, but found out so many ways of navigating military spouse employment from all of those other networking opportunities. And the best statistic that was out there was 80% of jobs were found from networking. And I think when we're looking at how do I forge a career in which I matter, I can give financial revenue to my family and
Right.
feel like I'm waking up every day with a purpose. We have to find where that purpose is. And sometimes that's found through volunteering and just even being in a space with real live people
Of
can
course.
help you feel so much better about yourself. But you never know what conversations you're going to have that are going to lead to your self exploration of maybe I should be taking this a different direction. I was just at a conference for the Foundation for Social Connection, and two legislative pieces, bipartisan legislative pieces, were put into signature for the Older Americans Act, but also for social health initiatives. And being able to go with my college daughter who is looking for paid internships and will be graduating. And, she's in this space meeting people from AARP or Meals on Wheels. And as an architect student, she was like, pieces were coming together of, wait, there could be different opportunities here. I'm talking to different people. So, I think no matter where you're at, there's opportunities to, get up, put your professional best on, or, take some notes, write down a good game plan, but just really get out there and be with other people, because that is going to be the best start to forging what's next.
I love it. Thank you so much for reminding us that, because you're so correct. Volunteering, it could really lead to so many intentional experiences. You could be at the right time, at the right place with the right individual, and then you get that job just like Crystal, without having to really go through I mean, obviously the application process, but not so much having to find it on all these scrolling. So this is really great. So I really encourage you to really take all these conversations super and tips very, very at heart, and follow up with Crystal so that we can continue to elevate and build that community, fight the isolation. But Crystal, right now I would like to invite you to let's send some shout outs to some members who are watching, and of course go around in our various communities. So definitely Stephanie, thank you Stephanie for posting and for sharing this great conversation. Please pay it forward. Thank you to Denise all the way in Georgia, and then of course Akita earlier today, she is all the way in Oklahoma. Thank you so much for supporting. Let's go over to our LinkedIn community as well and send a shout out to Ashton. Thank you, Ashton. Thank you to Kristen. Thank you, my friend, sending you a big hug. Emily, thank you so much for supporting this. Erica, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Marie, for tuning in. We're so excited to connect with you and to follow up, of course. And then let's go over to our spouse first community. Thank you, Braden, Stacy, Laura. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Darcy, Alicia. Thank you, Stephanie, Haleen. And I'm going to stop there because I want to take now a little bit more intentional and put you on the spot about joining and earning my hours. What would be one incredible call to action that you can share with us, Crystal? We are almost at time. I want to be mindful of your busy schedule, but career growth doesn't happen to anyone. I don't think I've learned of doing this career workforce development solutions pathway for me in over the 10 years. It doesn't happen in a straight line. We have to take little pivots, little detours in the process. So progress sometimes means applications, completing certifications, all these other great things. But for our social work enthusiastic individuals, those pursuing this path, what will be one small action that you can share with someone who's watching today or may watch the replay that will really strengthen their social health, but also build that confidence and lead to the final road of that certification and become a licensed social work with you?
So I'm going to skip to a slide really quick,
Let's do it.
because I think this is the magic sauce. Whoopsies. Okay, I'm going to go back the other way. So I think it's taking care of yourself and your well-being. And we can't do this work alone. We can't do this work without taking care of our well-being, and the well-being pillars of health are physical health, mental health, and social health. And, definitely reach out to us to learn more. We have a lot of information on our website. We have the UCLA loneliness scale. We have the 3-point right on our homepage. And then we have the longer version. Recognizing that you may be living with social isolation and loneliness is so pivotal, but integrating ways to really focus on your social health is going to help your physical health and your mental health. And for social workers that are listening, or anyone in human services, whether it's nursing or teaching, we can talk about boundaries all day long, but if we don't have social health and we don't feel a place of belonging in our communities, it's going to be really hard for us to navigate the hard stuff and even the easy days. So the call to action is really focusing on those pillars of well-being for any career that you're going into, and then using all these resources that are out there. National Military Family Association has some great, grants for clinical hours. You can, submit for a scholarship there. I'm a Pat Tillman scholar, being able to look at opportunities for scholarship to support your financial goals in paying for your education. There's so many opportunities, but we're not going to reach them in isolation.
Excellent. So, for those of you who are watching, I'm going to share the website just so that we make sure we get into this habit so that you end up in the right place. Remember, Strength in Service, it's right here. This is our website. We want to make sure that you make it to the right portal. And as Crystal mentioned, right here, we have our services, the different opportunities that are there available, career support, get to know more about Crystal in its mission and strength and services, everything else, please explore. Right here, you get to meet more about the founder, which is Crystal. And connect with her and really follow and elevate your strength by being very intentional about it, right? Whether that is you are looking to get this particular work as a career driven individual and clinician, or you're looking for services. You are supporting essentially our community and future clinicians, where you also, connect for services as well, and you take care of yourself. So it's a full circle for everything. So I love, that's why this was very intentional to have this conversation, to have Crystal here with us today. Unfortunately, 45 minutes or an hour is not enough to really dive into so many questions, so many great contributions. Thank you, Lindsay, for watching over in our Facebook group as well. And if you have any additional questions, post them. We love to make sure that you make it all the way to Crystal. But you can also follow her on LinkedIn, and then of course email her. And in the neighborhood, we have a profile for her, and you can also make sure that you are connecting with her almost right after this connection. So, Crystal, any last words as we give you back your time? Anything you would like to encourage us to learn more about Strength and Services, or you personally, projects for the summer?
Yeah, so the projects, I'm going to be out camping and out in national parks and going back to North Dakota where I was born and raised. So I'm just excited to do that and connect with some of my community roots. I think, again, Blue Star Families Museums, right? That's like the goal
Yeah.
for everyone. Just get out there and get to those museums. And, we just celebrated, I shouldn't say celebrated, it was Awareness Week for Loneliness and Social Isolation Week was last week. So really just extending your hand, making those phone calls, and forging that community. Sometimes we have to build the village that we want to be in, and we can't do this alone. So find ways to talk with your neighbors and talk with teachers, your community members, and reach out if you want more tips, or if your organization wants some more concrete ways of implementing social health into everyday life.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule for today to really enlighten us about your organization and the two various ways that you can support our community. Direct services, of course, for us to get well and be better, but also for those aspiring licensed clinicians who need the support to really solidify their career. We're so excited to have you in your network. Thank you so much for watching. And for all of you who may watch the replay, please pay it forward. Don't keep it to yourself, and continue to share with our community members. Thank you so much for joining us today.